Welcome to another episode of The Wrong Roadster. Today we are putting in a new radiator into our project Miata. What that's going to do is help the cooling, on the car right now is just the stock radiator, and with that I am getting some heating problems like when I'm taking the car out for spirited driving. So to fix that, we did buy a aftermarket thicker radiator off of Amazon. It's not anything fancy, it is just an off-brand off of Amazon. I am working with kind of a limited budget on this project, but I am going to try to get good parts. So looking at reviews on forums and things like that, these budget radiators do the job even for turbo and forced induction applications. So with that, this radiator should hold up fine. I did run into some fitment issues, which happens when you buy like off-brand products. Like if you buy a Mishimoto, which is like $100 more than I bought it for, it's probably going to fit a lot better along with the stock parts. I did have to change out a couple bolts, but I am working on a budget, so this should be better. And let's get on with the install. So to start this project, you'll need a couple of sockets, screwdrivers, and an antifreeze water mix. For the NA Miata in particular, we need a 17mm and a 10mm. As you can see here, this is the old stock radiator. It's pretty gross. Now here is our new radiator. Once again, it's an Amazon one. The company that makes it is OPL. It's all aluminum, it's thicker, it's fully welded, there's no plastic in it. So we're going to start off by jacking the car up. Now if the jack doesn't fit, roll the car up on some 2x4s. And once you jack the car up, always make sure to put proper jack stands on it. I have an extra wheel that I like to put under the car. Pop the hood. With the Miata, there is a skid plate thing that's under it. It's just a couple of screws. Once you get that skid plate out, there is this nut on the bottom of the radiator to drain it, and all you need to do is loosen this nut. There shouldn't be much torque on it. Once you start loosening it, you'll see that coolant starts to flow out. Now once the coolant starts flowing out, make sure get a bucket under there, and then get your hand under and take the bolt completely out. Now once the bolt is completely out, you want to undo the radiator cap. This is going to help all the radiator flush out even quicker. And it should look something like this. And look at that delicious radiator fluid. Okay, so you start off by taking out the upper radiator hose. There is a lower one also on the bottom driver's side for the NA Miata. Just undo the hose clamps and pull the hoses out. Check for any cracking or anything like that. If they are worn out, then you do want to change them. After that, there is 2 harnesses for a fan, and then 2 bolts on the top side of each radiator that holds the radiator in place. And then once everything's unplugged, to make sure there aren't anything really connecting the radiator to the frame, and the whole thing should just pull out. Now I pulled it out with the fans because in my situation it was easier that way, and because I'm going to change the fans out of the car. Now here you want to put both radiators side by side and change out all the hardware from one side to the other. It's not only just the fans, there are 2 radiator mounts that hold onto the frame, and then 2 bushings on the upper side of the radiator where it actually bolts in. So you'll pretty much just bring everything from one radiator to the other, and at the end it should look something like this. As you can see, toward the top side of the radiator, that is like this bushing, that's the upper radiator mount, and on the bottom it's where it sits against the car. Now I didn't opt for a slim fan in this application just because of budget reasons, but I realized I should have. The installation is literally just reverse. It should just drop in, As you can see here with the regular fans, I am running an extremely tight clearance. This is where if you have the extra money to shell out, go for the slim fans, just because with the thicker radiator, everything is sitting a little bit closer. Remember to connect up all your fan switches, make sure all your bolts are tight. Install back all your radiator hoses, including the overflow tank. Once that's all set, fill up the radiator with the car off. Now you want to use about a coolant water mix about 50-50. You want coolant and distilled water. Distilled water will make it last longer. Now once you have it all filled up, you want to start the car and put more coolant in to burp out the system. With this, your thermostat is going to open and more coolant is going to be able to flow. Once it stops sucking in any coolant, once it's all good to go, just replace your radiator cap and you're all set. As you can see here, the radiator is a lot thicker. It does dress up the engine bay a little bit. Because it was thicker, there was a little bit of a clearance issue. I just had to stuff everything in. This radiator in particular, I needed to get shorter bolts for the fans just because the threads were shorter. Luckily, I had a box of bolts laying around and I was able to get that to fit.